Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. Today, next session of our Gravitas Expert Speak. And today's topic is sorry, I think I'm missing the topic here. Today's topic is creating rituals to make sense of the VUCA world in which we are living. So essentially, discipline sets you free. I had this experience on a holiday when somebody told me that whenever that you go on a holiday, you're concerned and worried about how much money you're spending here and there, correct? And then somebody said, if you were to create a budget and allocate certain things that you're going to do there, after that you actually start to enjoy your holiday rather than to worry about the money part of it. I took the same analogy and looked at the time that we are spending. So I'm not sure what our guests are going to be talking about when it comes to the creating rituals part is concerned, but this is what I understand. So I'm also looking towards this talk as much as you are looking. And today we have got two wonderful people from our community. Both of them are coaches. One is a professionally certified coach, another one is an associate certified coach. Utkarsh Narang, he's one of the coaches, and he's going to be leading our session today. And I will leave it to Utkarsh to introduce our speaker for the day and take it from there. So uh, over to you, Utkarsh.
Thank you so much, Rajiv, for the introduction that kind of binds this session together. And I was listening to our last one, the last you had with Prakash. I think we're speaking about these rituals, these habits that allow us to thrive in these VUCA world. And since we are in March, there was this research that I was reading once that by March of a year, most of around 89% of our resolutions have already failed. So it is a big challenge that, in a way, each one of us are facing in this VUCA world, where we make these wonderful large resolutions, and then by the time we see the third month of the year, we have, in a way, failed at them, and we have either forgotten or are not implementing. So it's my joy to welcome Priya Venkatesan to our room today, who's a global leadership coach. She works with business leaders and their teams to achieve high impacts in terms of like organizational outcomes, but also on personal outcomes. And I let Priya share a little bit more about herself as we move ahead in this journey. Welcome,
Thank
Priya.
you, Utkarsh. Thank you, Utkarsh. Happy to be here and sharing whatever I know with the community, and also pick your mind, Utkarsh, on what do you think about what works considering your previous avatar. I spent majority of my corporate career in the tech industry and moved to coaching 7 years back. Right now, I work with leaders in the middle management to help them reach goals for themselves and their teams. That's about me. What about reaches fascinate me is that it helps me kind of set a mindset before I start anything, right? So that's how I got into rituals, and I have mine, and it will be a pleasure to share what I know in this session.
Absolutely, thank you, Priya. Thank you for that. That makes me think, Priya. We are talking about rituals here. Can you elaborate a little bit more as to what exactly forms a ritual, or maybe how are they beneficial also, so that our audience can understand what we're going to speak about today?
Yeah. So, in simple terms, a ritual has a set of actions that you have control on. It might have some repetition. It does not have a cause and effect. That means if you do something, it does not lead to immediate results then, but it helps you prepare for the actions that are coming forward, or when you end the day, it can help you wind down. So, the key thing to note about the ritual is your heart is in it. You are present for doing the ritual, however big or small it is, and you do not expect anything out of it except a state of mind. Uh,
Wow, wow.
yeah.
When you say that, it intrigues me. Like, how do you stay non-attached to the outcome of ritual? How is that possible?
Yeah, so the fulfillment comes in doing the ritual itself. So you can actually customize the ritual to things that appeal to you, to your sensibilities, and the way you make meaning in this world. So you have
Hmm.
control, and hence it is much more appealing. It's like studying the subject of your choice. So you really don't feel that you're studying and you have to get marks, but you're studying because you feel like studying. and you love studying and gathering knowledge on a particular subject. So that's how it is.
Yeah, I like that example. So basically, what we are saying is that if you really enjoy a certain activity and you are not attached to what the outcome is going to be, and you do it on a regular basis, then that in a way becomes a ritual.
Yes, that's a fantastic summary. Yes, Utkarsh.
Got it, got it. And when I also hear the word ritual, there's this part of me that wants to think about religion also brings many rituals to us. Can you help us connect the dots between how maybe the religious rituals and how we can learn from them to now then implement it to our habits?
Yeah, sure. The purpose of the religious rituals were also to give you the same thing that I was talking about, presence, which is they make you do a certain series of actions, they guide you to do it, but you are actually using almost all of your senses in doing it, right? So you have to look, you will have to use your hands to do something, you have to use your mouth to say something. So you are actually being very mindful when you perform them. And the more time you invest in being present and being mindful, what happens to you is your state of mind becomes a lot more equanimous and a lot more open to what is, instead of thinking how it should be. And then with that state of mind, when the ritual ends, you feel good. That was the purpose of the rituals. And what we are translating from there to today is the purpose, and also give people an ability to tweak the way they want it to be. For example, some people like gratitude journals to wind up their day. Some people start their day with their intention. So you don't have to learn any religious context or tradition in order to build a ritual. You can actually build it with whatever you know and whatever makes sense for you.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Priya. And as you were sharing it, it came to me like I've been also thinking a lot about like how to find metaphors for our life, and that's where I find joy. And so this metaphor of a river always comes to me. That if life were to be like a river, and we are expecting states of flow, as we call them,
Yeah.
but then we also need intentions to set our day, intentions to set our week, intentions to set our lifetime. Like a river changes direction. So to me it resonates that maybe ritual is the way that one can set intention in a life. Would that be a correct correlation?
That's a beautiful summary. You could use a ritual for setting intentions. You
Hmm.
could use a ritual for processing your suffering, even your mental suffering. You can use a ritual to process grief. You can use a ritual to say, my work has ended and now I am leading my life outside work. Right. So if you close your laptop, it could be just a ritual to say, yes, work is over, and then you can move along to something else. Right. So ritual can be anything, and definitely it can be used for intention setting, as you described the river. And uh, when I see my clients, the more planners they are, they struggle to be in the moment, like the river that you were talking about, right? So if you are somebody who expects life to turn up the way you want, and you're not okay with accepting the way it is, right? Ritual can help you be much more equanimous to what is turning up and be in the moment. Just as a river will meander around an obstacle, you will be able to meander around what is and still be composed and calm and do the things that you would want. So if that helps, that's where the intention part of the ritual comes in.
I love that. I love that. So how a river meanders around that obstacle, a ritual is going to also help us go around it and continue our state of flow. Thank you, Priya. Really, really, I think our listeners would be enjoying this conversation. So for those who are just joining, we are speaking to Priya Venkatesan on rituals and how can we create them to build habits, to build a life that we really want. But Priya, it comes to me that when we set a resolution, that the initial part of that resolution or initial part of any action or a ritual is very kind of intense, that we are emotionally charged and we want to achieve things. But then there might be a time where we see a big dip. How can rituals be of value when we are going through those dip times, so to say?
Yes, it's a very good question. The story of change for most of my clients is this: I want this. And it is in my awareness that I need to do ABC for that. Right. And I start doing ABC for 5 days. And then I get frustrated and leave the five. Right. So
Correct.
that's how the story of change starts. So When we say we have to build habits, as you would know, Utkarsh, we need at least some time to build the habits. Like 21 to 48 days is an ideal time to build a habit. So how do you sustain till you reach 21 days, right? When a new year flips, I think there is some sort of a joy in the environment. There is joy around. The people that we meet, so there is a lot of momentum which gets built because of the year change. And then what happens after the year change is that the momentum dies down and nobody wishes you happy new year anymore, and hence the state of mind is like, oh my god, I have one more thing to get it done. It essentially means the heart is not engaged in what you're trying to do. You're doing it much more because your head thinks that is what you need to do. And most of the actions are from our traditions, the actions come from the heart because they require your hands and head, your hands, legs and mouth to move, right? And if the heart is not engaged, they wouldn't, right? So before you start on the journey to do an action which is outside your comfort zone, um, if you can prepare your mind and your heart for it in terms of how you want to be when you are doing that habit, right, that would actually carry you through till the 21 days to 48 days timeline, after
Mm.
which it becomes very, very seamless in terms of it becomes autopilot mode because you are no longer very conscious about it. The key difference between a habit and a ritual is that you are very engaged in a ritual. That means you're very conscious. While in a habit, after a certain point in time, you are on autopilot. There is not much of consciousness in actually doing it, right? So a ritual actually helps you be present, engage your heart and your emotions, and get you into a state of mind from which the habit is possible.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Priya. And while you were saying this, like how action has to come from the heart, how it has to be a conscious effort. I was going back to my physiotherapy days many years ago, 15 years ago, and I was just thinking that why do doctors prescribe giving a medicine after breakfast and after dinner? Because they've now associated their medicine intake to a habit that is like kind of clearly formed, that you
Yes,
will end up having breakfast each day, you will have dinner each day, so why don't you take that medicine after it, so that that is associated. And
great.
similarly, in a way, when we used to tell patients to do exercise at home, we used to say that you can do it as soon as you wake up, you can spend 15 minutes in your bed to do this. So I think in that moment, now I'm realizing that we were also asking them to build rituals. Would that be a correct assumption to think of?
Yeah, I would say that you're cascading habits. That means you have a habit of eating food at certain times, and then it's before that or after that. So basically, you're tagging on to an existing habit and making this
Mhm.
happen, which will be easy to remember, and be able to stick to it, right? So that is what I would give as an example is the moment somebody sees a doctor, and I remember reading it in one of what Dr. Devi Shetty said, that
Mhm.
whatever I need to know about a person's heart is there in the reports. I don't have to look at the patient. I just can get it from the report. But even now, I take my stethoscope and just go near the patient and put the stethoscope on the heart of the patient so that the patient knows that I have understood, right? Right.
Yeah.
So that is a ritual. That is a ritual where the communication happens by a symbolic gesture where the doctor says, yes, I have understood you and your complaints, and if we do this, it will happen, right? So most often rituals are very symbolic. They don't actually have a cause and effect with the final outcome at all. It just
Mhm.
the patient goes back with that state of mind, I'm going to get cured. And
Right.
from that state of mind, if he's taking the pill, he has more chances of getting better than
Yeah.
actually just looking at reports and then the doctor prescribing them. So that's where
Lovely.
it's, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. But then now it kind of takes me to that next part. For us to do any action, we need to have motivation. And
Yes.
I was reading somewhere that it could be like either you can have internal motivation to do things, or you could have external motivation. If we connect that aspect of our motivation to a ritual, how would that play out for all of us and our listeners?
It is an intrinsic motivator because it gives you a sense of control in a world which is very uncertain, where you cannot predict what is going to happen next. And considering the last 2 years, I find most of my clients are very anxious. about what is happening to them, what's happening to their family, what's happening to the world. Right, so there is this feeling of loss of control, and then when there is a feeling of loss of control, there is fear, and that
Hmm.
fear causes them to avoid doing a lot of things, right? So there is an avoidance behavior which is getting set. So if you have
Hmm.
to offset that, there should be something which is much more positive, which says that you have agency, a sense of agency in making the life that you want to happen, right?
Yeah.
So the rituals actually is an intrinsic motivator, and that's how you build it the way you like to have it, right? So certain people experience doing something early morning as calming them and preparing them for the day.
Hmm.
Rafael Nadal, in particular, is a very big proponent of rituals. So he has about 19 of them, which he does before every match, including a cold shower and how he arranges his energy drink right across, facing the audience, and what he does. So he has about 19 of them. And after doing that, people were asking him, "Does it have any significance to your game?" Right? So he says, "I don't know, but it has significance to what I am in my head."
Hmm.
Right?
So
So
powerful.
it removes the clutter, it brings me in focus, and I am prepared. So, and if
Yeah.
I'm prepared, that's all the best I can do. And I cannot control the game, but I can control how I am. So he goes
Beautiful.
by ritual. So it is a great intrinsic motivator.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for bringing in sports. I think I've two thoughts around it. So one is I've heard about. I think there was this very popular American basketball coach, John Wooden, who used to say that I don't care if you win or lose in the basketball game, but I want you to give your 100% when you go into that court. And I think that's what Rafael Nadal is also bringing us. But the question then comes to mind is when you create a series of these 19 rituals. A, how do you kind of remember that? And then B, the other question would be like, is there like an optimal structure of a ritual that you and I can speak about?
Yeah. So the optimal structure is the one which works for you. So if you find 19 is overwhelming, you can actually, just by writing three things that you're grateful about at the end of the day, which might probably take you 15 to 30 seconds,
Correct.
can actually change how you feel when you go to sleep, and probably can influence your sleep a lot.
Hmm.
Right, so it doesn't have to be a big ritual to actually help you change your state. Can be a very small thing, right? And sports is the arena where people have a lot of superstitions and have a lot of rituals. What kind of people don't even want to get up from their sofas if some
Yeah.
cricket player is playing because in the belief that if they do, then the person might get out. So there are a lot of superstitions and rituals also, but they work only because the person believes them to be true, right?
Hmm.
So that's why they work. So whatever you believe to be true, and whatever makes sense for you to do, that's all you need to do to get into that state.
Got it. Got it. Lovely. Thank you for sharing. So, if I'm trying to kind of paraphrase the first 20 minutes of our conversation, so rituals are something that are very personalized. They are something that motivate you internally to take action. They could be as small as maybe a deep breath, or as long as
Yes.
Nadal's 19 rituals to prepare for a match. They're gonna not like they're gonna shift, like as Nadal was saying, shift your internal state where you're
Yes.
more motivated, more inspired to get things done. But if we were to now move to a direction where can organizations also support forming rituals for the organization itself, but also for the teams and the individuals?
Yes, they can. The agile processes are a great example of, I come from the tech industry, so I can pick that up.
Mm,
So the agile processes actually, and the manifesto, you have about six different things that, people adhering to that necessarily follow, but how do you action them? So there is a set of rituals. So you have a stand-up meeting, so where people have to really stand up. It's called a
yeah.
stand up meeting because people have to stand up. The only reason is if you stand up, you're much more present, and the meeting gets over a lot quicker. Then you were relaxed and then whiling away your time.
Mm,
And it has classic three questions people usually ask, right? What has happened to the thing that you did yesterday? What are you going to do today? And how are you feeling today? Very
mm,
simple, three questions. Anybody can answer it within a minute. So it doesn't have to be like elaborate explanation of what they're going to do. And at the end of the day, usually people have a closure meeting as well, or it happens in the next, depending on the scope or the number of team members who are participating. There's also a retrospective team meeting, which is about what did you learn from the last sprint,
Yeah.
right? So people share, and there is no blame. So the idea is that you are in a very safe environment. So that is again a ritual which is done where you are free to voice why what didn't go well, right?
Wow.
So organizations can definitely build rituals, right? So in a way that is aligned to the culture.
Lovely, lovely, absolutely. And while you were speaking of that, I remember my days of going to the office has not happened in the last 2.5 years. But so the office was on the 10th floor, and by the time from the second basement level to the 10th floor, it would take around say 30 seconds for the elevator. But those 30 seconds were so important to me. And now, as we're speaking about this topic of rituals, it comes to me that I used to like have a small self talk that today is
Yes,
going to be the best day of my life, and I'm going to do great work because I get to come to this office. And that is such a simple exercise which I never realized is becoming a ritual, but was a part of my daily habit in a way.
that's great. That's a great self-talk that you're doing, and it sets the intention for the day. It puts you in a good space. You walk into the office with the best you can be, and then take it forward from there.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm from Tamil Nadu, and for
Mm.
the first time for work, I went to Mumbai. So
Mm.
I could speak Hindi, but still, it felt so uncomfortable just going there right to office on day one. There was this cafeteria person who comes and asks everyone who's there in Air India building, Madam, kya mangta? Sir, kya mangta? Right? So the moment we see him, there is some certainty, right? Because we
Yeah.
are all new, but he has been there for long and he has seen many more people like us. Right, so certainty can be built with very very small things, and you could build if you don't have somebody who can help you with that, you can build it yourself.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, that's such a. We've been talking about unprecedented change. We've been talking about uncertainty over the last 2 years, but it's beautiful how you've just reframed it to a very simple solution to it, which is sounding simple but is easier said than done. So, if you can set certain rituals for yourself, you can transform that uncertainty to certainty by creating, in a way, some kind of an anchor in your daily life. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes, you create a safe zone for you where you feel safe, and moment you feel safe, your resources can start kicking
Yeah,
and help you do the day, right? So yes, it is small, and you can make it as big as you want it to be,
correct.
right? So it can affect your health, it can affect your mental space, it can affect actually people around you, how they right. For example, I think almost all of us do, right? When somebody comes back into our home, we ask, how was your day?
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah,
simple question, right? So, how was your day? Certain people love it, right? Because it tells them, some way to vent what happened, what didn't happen, right? And the other person listens, right? Which is again a
correct.
presence exercise, right? Not
Correct.
doing whatever they want while listening to, right? So, it can be as simple as that. And it can actually change your mood, your state of mind, and can bring in a lot of reset, which is very hard these days with boundaries blurring, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful. I think that's a very powerful aspect of reset as someone enters home. And I think you and I were speaking the other day about this ritual of coming home and just like washing your hands and washing your face and feeling energized because of it, because that would have become a ritual for us on a daily basis, but
Yes.
which has gone missing over the last 2 years since we've not gone out to an office or come back home. So I think these are things that one can be conscious and aware about inculcating into our daily practice, to see that if certain rituals are working for us when we were working from office, we can bring them back working from home. And now, as we go back to the office, they should stay and be a part of our life. But yeah, another question that comes to mind is that if, say, a coachee comes to you and he or she is feeling that they've been unable to build that, how would you guide them through a process of getting into a habit of rituals or building something that will be of beneficial to them on the long run?
Yes, it's a great question. So, the first part is to build a reset somehow, right? It's like a switch off, switch on button, right? So, I just ask them how they go through the day. Most of them who have struggles reporting anxiety and fear and overthinking. This is classic. Overthinking, I'm not able to sleep, right? For first 1 hour when I lie down, I get all sorts of things right from what I started in the day to the end, and it never stops, right? So I asked them to do, what were they doing before the pandemic, right? So they might have some rituals already. If they don't have any, there are few low-lying fruits, right? So one of them is water. So
Yeah.
water has a property of taking away memory. So if you could build a reset with water in any way or form, that you can drink water, you can wash yourself with water, whatever that makes sense, it removes memory. So it kind of gets you off those overflooding thoughts in your head. That's one thing. The other thing is, if they find they're going to miss something, there's a fear of missing out, right? So, oh my God, I had this action item, will I miss it tomorrow? So I asked them to write it down somewhere where they believe it will be there when they wake up next morning. So there is no fear that it's disappearing, right? And always close with something positive to look forward for. So 3 items that they are grateful for. It's something that I asked them to write. But depending on the context, some people have trouble resetting in the morning. That means they wake up, but they're not fresh, or
Correct.
they're coming back with. In that case, setting intentions is something that they could do. Just one intention for the day. I will be calm through the day is a good enough intention, right? So can they
Lovely.
write that down? And that's it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. How you, in a way, are I would not call it fool the brain, but modify the brain to have a different feeling altogether throughout the day. And another thing that is coming to mind is that if one would to act upon these rituals like again and again over 21 days, 90 days, and so on and so forth, how the neurons that are getting fired together will start to wire together and build this new ritual, which will, as we were saying, become an unconscious part of you, where you will be very comfortable getting onto them.
Yeah, the reflection of the ritual will be in your new habits. So are
Yeah.
you able to sustain new habits? Are you able to do something outside your comfort zone? Are you able to feel good every at least most of the day? All right,
Yeah.
are you able to sleep well? So it will have an impact outside the scope of its seeding.
Mm.
So you will have to look outside, because a ritual by design is not supposed to generate outcome. You remember the lack of focus on the outcome. It's the state of mind. So it's
Yeah.
much more about the means to the end. So you'll have to see, when you do the means, the end has to change. So the end will change in the other areas where your habits are sticking. You are able to do a lot of things that you thought you cannot do, right? So that's the area that you will see the change.
Got it. Lovely. So if we were to summarize, so ritual becomes something that's kind of a inner switch or inner tweak that you're doing, which is not going to end up into a immediate result, but there'll be an outer impact that you'll see where there'll be a shift in your behavior, shift in your actions, and that is something that one needs to observe to feel gratified that my inner switch led to something on the outside. Would that be a good summary of a ritual?
Yeah, that's a great summary. And one thing that I wish to add there is that it is by design that we have an ability to process rituals to form habits. It's not a tweak, just that we've forgotten the design.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Priya, for sharing that. That's really wonderful. Before we end this conversation, Priya, any kind of one line last advice for our listeners as they go onto their worlds and change their rituals and change their lives?
Yeah, just set an environment and do a small ritual for 30 seconds today, and that's all we need.
Lovely, perfect. Thank you, Priya. So yeah, that was Priya. Great conversation, Priya. Thank you for that. Rajiv, welcome back to our room.
Thank you very much. I've been enjoying the conversation from the sidelines, and I have a few thoughts and quickly would like to kind of share before we close for the day. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you know that we have been discussing this. I was a chef for a first half of my life. And one thing that I learned there was, if I were to go to my mom and ask her, how did you cook this particular preparation? And she would say, I just put a little bit of this and I just put a little of that, right? And that is how it was. So, but when coming from a professional background, I wanted to learn exactly how so I made her measure everything, I looked at her process, and eventually I got the recipe right. Now, this
Yes.
is what I'm thinking of. Why? Because whatever that you are talking about, creating those rituals, I think most of us, we have some sort of ritual intuitively that we have started following, which has worked for us,
Indeed.
right? We have been doing that. In fact, and I remembered when I was just starting off with my entrepreneurial journey, uh, I had to get into the mood of getting to work. So I made sure that I would dress up, even though I did not have a job. I would dress up and go to a specific space to give my mind that signal that I am working now. I'm not just at home, I'm working now. So the analogy between the cooking part of it and creating a recipe was that you might have certain things that you're doing intuitively, but the minute you go through the session or a conversation like yours, you're able to convert that into a recipe or a tool that you can actually start to apply to your intentional way of living your life. It's so important that we are so robotic in our actions these days. And sometimes when we just start to move like a robot and you have no control over it, you start to feel that there is no control over whatever is happening to me from the outside world. But setting an intention and following that ritual gives you some sense of control, and you start to believe that whatever happens around you, you will be able to manage it or handle it in some form or the other. And that's my takeaway. I'm not sure how other people are going to interpret it, but this is what I'm interpreting. So thank you very much for that wonderful, insightful, very, very, kind of inspiring kind of a talk that we had today. Thanks a lot for, leading this session, Utkarsh. Brilliantly facilitated. Priya, thank you once again. And this is definitely not going to be the last one. We will definitely come and pick your brains once again. All right.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, viewers. Do let us know if there's anything that you would like us to talk about. What is a topic that would be of interest to you that we can bring from our speakers here? And we will curate those programs for you. So for now, thank you very much. And I will see you again next week. Bye bye.